CashFlow Diary Podcast, Episode 2.
Congratulations, you showed up. Give yourself a high five in celebration of your success. Welcome to the CashFlow Diary, where new and experienced investors come to take confident action towards their goals. Your host is a family man, a real estate entrepreneur, investor, coach, and instructor. As a master facilitator of Robert Kiyosaki's Cashflow 101 game, he's inspired many to begin their journey into creating cash flow for themselves and their family. And now, here he is to offer you the tools required to earn the income desired. Your cash flow coach, Jay Massey.
Well, hello there. You've made it now to the second episode of the CashFlow Diary. Welcome. Glad you're here. I wanted to make sure in our normal announcement section that you remember, if you have not done so already, go to the website CashFlowDiary.com. Get access to your free course, Cashflow Foundation. It's where I give the number one most missed steps necessary to creating some cash flow, and more importantly, to owning a business and running an empire, whatever your empire might be and consist of. And I break it down so that you have the ability to duplicate and more importantly, create the system and the business that you're looking to create, and understand how to persevere through those hard times, rough times, so that you never quit again. And most importantly, develop the beginnings and, dare I say, the basics of the skill sets necessary so that you will never, ever, ever need a job again. It's Cashflow Foundation at CashFlowDiary.com. And if this is your first time listening to us, make sure you listen to the first episode to understand my background and the background and the format of the show. Just as a quick reminder, we are majority education. 90 to 95% of the episodes will be solely focused on those things that I believe will help you to go out there and do more business out there and create more value in the marketplace for more people, so that you and your family can benefit, and so can everyone else from your better products or services that you guys have available. Okay, today I want to begin with a quote. I like this particular one. It's there is, and here's the quote. Simply says, "There is no limit to what a man can do or where he can go if he doesn't mind who gets the credit." A gentleman by the name of Ronald Reagan said that. He was the 40th president of the United States of America. And it's an interesting thought process whereby part of what limits us sometimes is we want, the credit for getting something done. I mean, I think it's also funny that a politician said this because it's often politicians who are looking to get credit for things. And I find it interesting that it would come from from someone in that particular line of work, that particular question, that particular statement. But I do find it interesting that you can be a better team player when credit is not the issue, but serving the customer or making sure that you do just simply what's right. That could set you very, 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 very much apart. One of the questions that I get a lot, and this is in our My Two Cents today, is one of the questions that I get a lot that I'm going to spend a lot of time answering, that many people may have or may want to know, is how can I place an offer if I don't have the money? If you listen to the first episode, you understand that the majority of the real estate that I do, and that when I'm working with individuals to help them do, is to simply help them understand how to do real estate without using money or credit, or your own money or credit. And that's kind of the major topic of the show, which is why I chose one of this particular question to answer today. And again, if you've got a question that you think needs answering, definitely send it in to cashflowquestion at cashflowdiary.com. Again, that's cashflowquestion at cashflowdiary.com. And I will add it to the good ones. And now remember, I can't answer all the questions. I can't answer the best ones though. But because this is one of the most popular questions, I figured I'll go ahead and knock it out before you send it in. Is how can I place an offer if I don't have the money? And it trips up many, many people. So I'm going to break it down in a completely different way so that you have an opportunity to think about it from a different standpoint. This is what I mean. For a second, for some of you, this will be easy because you won't have to imagine a whole lot. But for others of you, this could be very, very challenging, and that's okay either way. Imagine for a second that you have a daughter. Okay. Congratulations. You're like, a daughter. Hey, you didn't even have a kid before you were listening, and now I just gave you a daughter. But okay, just for the sake of this podcast, this episode, you have a daughter. Okay. So if you don't have a daughter now, that's okay. If you do, you understand already where you kind of understand where I'm going through. Imagine you have a daughter. Today, right now, as you listen to this, she is exactly 13 years old. 13. So you now have a daughter and she's a teenager. Okay. You have a daughter and she's a teenager. And today you come home from work, or you come home, or she calls you or sends a text message, or, if you're talking about today's teenager, she sends you a message on Facebook or Twitter, and simply says, Dad, Mom, I must have my wedding dress tomorrow. I must have my wedding dress tomorrow. And she is absolutely stressed because she doesn't have her wedding dress. And now she comes to you and says, I absolutely must have my wedding dress tomorrow. Now, there are a myriad of thoughts that are probably going through your head, or that could be going through your head. I know some of them are like, you just want to dismiss the entire question. You don't even want to give it any credence or think about it, but play along with me for a second. If she did say that, if it was possible that she would actually come to you and say that, is there anything that's out of order? Is there anything missing from that situation? For example, she's 13. In most states, you have to be a certain age older than 13 to be able to get married. So isn't that one of the first things that you would be thinking, is thinking of like, okay, hold up. You're 13, you're worried about the wedding dress. Why on earth are you worried about that when you have at least 5 and possibly 10? And if you're like some dads, you can get married after you, or you can date after you get married. That's something I joke and tell my daughters from time to time. So you're thinking to yourself all of these things, right? You don't need your wedding dress. Ask yourself this question, and this is the way I look at it. What is the absolute last possible day and time that she needs that wedding dress? Let's assume she was planning on getting married at 3 o'clock. She's planning on getting married at 3 o'clock on no matter what day it is. She doesn't need that dress till, I'm going to say, noon, same day. Now, some of the ladies listening to me, you probably just freaked out going, there's no way on earth I could get my dress that late. But here's the point. You don't need it until it's actually time to put it on. You may want to try it on, you may want to do all these other things to it, and I get that. I do. But what I'm saying is you don't absolutely positively need it until it is time to put it on and walk down the aisle. Furthermore, what are some of the steps that come before that? Oftentimes, you can think about the whole idea of a wedding. So maybe let's talk about location. Does she even have a location, or what about the bridesmaids? Who are they going to be? Who else is in the bridal party? And speaking of bridal party, shouldn't there be a groom? Who is she getting married to? But remember, today she's worried about where on earth her wedding dress is, and that she needs it tomorrow. Not only that, but yes, she has to get older, but man, can you even drive? I mean, do you have a job? I mean, there are so many other things that come before needing the wedding dress that it's almost silly for her to be worried today about the wedding dress. This often happens when people go, or when we go to try to place an offer. People say, well, where's the money going to come from? Does it matter? When do you absolutely need the money? Do you need it right now, today? The day you place the offer? The answer most of the time is no, you don't. Only in rare circumstances do you need the money the same day. And even if you did need the money in the same day, you at least have a few hours to go and get it. And I'm primarily talking about auction examples where there could be times where you can actually make a deposit on it and have at least 24 or 48 hours to come up with the rest of the money. So even though you made the offer, also known as your bid in this particular sentence or situation, you don't even need all of the money right then. But for some people, that prevents them from even taking the first step. They're like, I don't know where the money's going to come from. It doesn't matter until you absolutely need it. So you don't need that money until it's time to close escrow or title or however it's done in your state. You don't need the money until that exact moment. So what does that mean? That means you now are free to go out there and at least place more offers because you don't absolutely have to have the money until that point. Now, it's around this time where someone will say, well, what about, the escrow deposit and or the consideration or whatever word you want to use? Well, who said that that ever had to be money? I didn't. I don't know where it's written where it must be money. At best, it must be something that both parties recognize as value. And more importantly, because having tried this, your escrow or title company has to have the ability to keep that item safe. This is what I mean. One time, just to prove this point on consideration, what I did is inside of a real estate contract, I wrote that I was going to give a gold coin, one of the gold American Eagles as the escrow deposit as opposed to, cash. Everything was fine. The seller was okay with it. I was okay with it. This is what we were going to do. We were going to use the gold American Eagle as the actual consideration deposit inside of our escrow. The challenge was when we got to escrow themselves did not have a way to keep it safe. So they were in a situation going, well, we can recognize its value, but we don't have a way to protect this asset during the transaction before closing. So could you please? And they came back to me and was like, could you please just use cash? And just to facilitate the ease of the transaction, went ahead and changed it over, use cash, but at the end of the day, my point is that if you have anything, something of value can be offered as opposed to just money. All right. Money is just a medium of exchange. It's a tool to allow you and I to have access to the services of others. And we'll talk more about that as the episode goes on. Today's show, we're talking about the most important tool, and I also think it's the most underutilized tool in real estate. That most important tool, in my opinion, that's also underutilized is, simply leverage. And a quick definition of leverage for those of you who may be new to the concept is it's just using a small anything to gain better more work out of it. So this is what I mean. The actual definition says the use of a small initial investment, credit, or borrowed funds to gain a very high return in relation to one's investment, to control a much larger investment, or to reduce one's own liability for any loss. It's basically you're using two pennies to control 20. That's it. You're using very little to control more. It allows you the ability with less risk, less personal risk, so to speak, to be able to control a whole lot, to be able to control the entire asset. The most common form of leverage that people know about happens to do with using bank loans. We're going to talk about that later when it comes to other people's money specifically. But there are other types of leverage inside of real estate transaction that I want to focus on as we go through the episode today. The first and foremost piece is what is often called OPK. OPK. That's Oscar Paul Kilo. OPK. That's the short for other people's knowledge. One form of leverage is to use other people's knowledge. Other people's knowledge. For example, inside of a transaction, sometimes you have people who actually will find your tenants and talk to your customers. Your customers and tenants are one and the same. The people who will be able to go out there and actually, you can leverage, their expertise, in the form of property management, but also more importantly, you can leverage someone's expertise when it comes to legal and or tax matters, meaning they've gone to school, they went for something very hyper specific in terms of legal. They went for a very specific specialized skill. And now that they possess this skill, they're willing to offer it to you for a fee or maybe in exchange or in kind or all kinds of other ways to get access to that knowledge. But now that you have that knowledge, you're able to use that knowledge to achieve your business objectives or goals. The common forms, as I said, are attorneys, sometimes CPAs or enrolled agents, Also, you've got your CFOs, your COOs, you've got CEOs, people that you can get information from. Oftentimes, these people are found at your networking groups, so that you have the ability to just, ask them other people's knowledge. Another form of it is to talk to more experienced investors than yourself, so that you have the ability to leverage from their wisdom. And just so that you know, the reason they are now wise is because they made so many silly mistakes at the beginning. And that's what I tell people all the time is that, I know what I know because I was willing to make mistakes. And you've got to learn to be willing to make those mistakes. However, that doesn't mean you have to make all of them by yourself. I mean, there are enough mistakes to make. You don't need to make all of them. Go access other people's knowledge if you can, so that you don't have to make all the mistakes. That doesn't mean you won't make any. It just means you won't make the same ones they did, or you shouldn't make the same ones they did, simply because you now have access to some of that same information. Other people's knowledge is by far, in my opinion, one of the most valuable, especially over time, one of the most valuable pieces of information, or valuable pieces of the puzzle that you can use. Once you have it, it's man, it's amazing to be able to get it. Once you have other people's knowledge on your team, you benefit from that over and over and over again. And one of the reasons that you want to focus on doing more and more deals and getting through them faster is simply because you want to make sure that it's your knowledge that other people are leveraging. And sometimes just because of your knowledge alone, you have the ability and bring value to the table, and you're able to get inside of a deal. The next piece that I want to talk about is OPT, other people's time. This is most prevalent, as I was beginning to allude to, with the property managers. Now, property managers have a specialized skill set and they've got knowledge, of course, but it's mostly their time in picking up, the rent, or finding that new tenant, or arranging for um, maintenance calls, or being able to do all of those, the some of the basic accounting that needs to happen with your property, and some of the communications and the advertising. A lot of their time is what you are leveraging and using. And the same thing is true when it comes to, some of your maintenance and the repair people. They've got specialized knowledge, but they get to deploy that knowledge for a very short period of time, and therefore get to use it to, fix your building. Like if they're a plumber or roofer, they've got some specialized knowledge, but it's mostly their time that they're billing you for. Same things again with attorneys. They've got specialized knowledge, obviously, but again, it's their time that you're leveraging. The time, see, here's the fun part, is as you leverage other people's time, that's time that you don't have to go and actually do that same thing. Same thing with knowledge. If you find an expert, say in taxes or in legal, if you find an expert, say in property management, or if you find an expert, say in acquisitions or creative acquisitions, or you find an expert in any particular area, it means that you don't have to go and become that expert, and thus you, in effect, gain access to all of that leverage. I mean, what if it took that person 15 years to become an expert, or 200 transactions to become an expert, or whatever? Once you found that expert, you now, in effect, have access to, and have leveraged, and have gained, and have shortened your learning curve by that exact same amount. So you just got to understand that when you go to networking groups, you're looking, for wisdom. You're looking for people who might have time, especially if that's what you're short on, is that you have the ability to leverage other people's knowledge and other people's time. Okay, going to take a break for a second from the main topics today. We've got two more of our main topics today regarding leverage, and I want to talk about a section that I'm going to call, or that we're going to be calling, dip news, where we're going to take a dip in the news. It's short for a process that I use to be able to help recognize opportunity in your own local paper. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take an article from online paper, or online, news distribution channel, and break down that article to help understand how you can take the information that's in an article to be able to develop a possible real estate play, and even see something that you might not have been able to see before. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the dip into the news, into an older article this time. This particular article was on MSNBC on June 15th, 2012. It said $1 million earners making a comeback tax returns show. You're like, well, what does that have to do with me? Well, here's the point. When you're looking through this, it can give you some clues. And that's one of the things that I believe Tony Robbins says, right? Success leaves clues. So I'm looking for clues on where does my business need to go, or what is it that I might want to focus on, or how is it that I can, take this information that's being presented to me and use it in such a way as to be able to augment my own, income statement or balance sheet, or provide more value in the marketplace. Now, some of the information that's in this article, it states that the number of $1 million earners fell 40% in the financial industry meltdown and Great Recession of 2007 to 2009 before making a comeback in 2010, the most recent year available. I find it, first of all, interesting that they've determined an end already to the Great Recession, but let's keep going in this particular article. It says in 2010, about 268,000 taxpayers reported adjusted gross income of $1 million or more, up from 237,000 in 2009. 237,000 taxpayers in 2009 was a 6-year low. 6-year low. And of course, these millionaires represent just a tiny fraction of the nation's 143 million taxpayers in total. Just a small sliver of the top 1%. It's about the top 0.2%. So basically, what this particular article is giving us is some information about just the financial health of our entire United States in this particular sense from the personal income perspective. Now, this is what I find that's interesting. It says, while millionaires are making a comeback, the picture has been less promising for the vast millions of the middle class. A census report last fall, so this would be fall 2011, showed that the nation's median income was $49,445 in 2010, a decline of 2.3% from 2009 once adjusted for inflation. That's interesting to me. That's also interesting to me that the average income is $49,445. Now, what I wanted to say in this particular sense is that there's two things going on. There are some people out there, what this article is telling me is that there are some people out there who seem to be earning more money. Now, it's not a lot, but there are some. And it also is telling me that the middle class isn't those people. So I start asking myself, what do the millionaire tax returns that they're referring to in this particular article have in common? So, see, first of all, we've got to go through the process. The process is DIP, like I said. The first part of the process is the data. What the information that you're getting from most news channels is just a bunch of data. It's a bunch of numbers and facts and things. Okay, so in and of themselves, if I told you in 2010, 268,000 taxpayers reported an adjusted gross income of 1 million or more, up from 237 in 2009, what that's just data. It has no meaning. It just is data. The next step that we must do is we must take this data and turn it into information. And that's kind of the first step that the newspaper attempts to do, is take it and turn it to information, because then it goes in that same sentence and says, which was a 6-year low. Okay, the 6-year low. Here's the point. Once you've got the data, it must then become information. Here's the next step, and it must become interpreted so that you know what you need to do. You've got to take the information and then interpret it and try to understand, what is it that I can do so that I can become either one of these millionaire taxpayers that they're referring to here in this particular article, because that what they're saying is $1 million adjusted gross income. This is their definition, and here's another thing that's in there, is that their definition is anyone who has an adjusted gross income of $1 million or more. They definitely aren't talking about me, but what I think is interesting is that in this particular process, it can tell you there are some things that it says. It says, for example, 86% of them were filed by married couples. compared with only 40% of all tax returns. So what it's saying is that of all the tax returns in the US, 40% of them are done only by married couples. But 86% of those who have earned $1 million AGI were in this particular category were married. I find that interesting. Also, what's interesting is that half of them are 55 and older. So that may make you feel better, that may encourage you, that may discourage you. It doesn't matter. For right now, it's just data, it's just information. Here's one way of interpreting this information. Let's say, for example, you had a product or a service out there that you were looking to provide, i.e., real estate. Do you think that those individuals could be easily targeted with some of the information that you just now learned? You just learned that you know what their AGI is, you know they're mostly married, and you know that they're typically 55 and older. Could you use that information to figure out what section of town that might be, where most of those individuals are, where they live, etc.? Could you use that information in any way in your business to help you figure out what the next step is? The next time you're trying to figure out, well, who should my ad be placed to, or who should my target market be, or who is it that I want to serve? You were just given some information right here that could help you make that decision. Now, that's not the point of this particular article, but that's not, that the point of this article is just to it looks like to incite people to be upset against those who are making way more money than the average person, which is fine. But the whole point here that I'm trying to make is, let's use the news, take a dip in the news, is to go through the data, information, interpretation process, and that's what DIP stands for, and be able to go, okay, I see what they're saying, but more importantly, what do I need to do about it? This clearly tells me that if I wanted to, one of the things that I should focus on is individuals that are possibly 55 and older who would be looking to earn additional income so that they would be able to take advantage of the benefits of real estate. That's really what I can see inside this article. This is just, again, one small example. I'll bring you more examples as episodes go forward of, articles, or maybe you can send me an example if there's an article you want me to do this with, so that you can figure out, okay, I saw this article in my paper, I saw this article online. What does it mean? What can I do, or what should I do because of what this article is saying? And you can totally figure stuff like that out time and time again. All right. So before we get back to the other two topics or parts of the main topic today, I want to make sure that we squeeze in the answer to last week's cash flow question. Last week, the cash flow question was simply, name the benefit of rental real estate that is often called a phantom expense. Name a benefit of rental real estate that is often called a phantom expense. Uh, Many of you probably are guessing, but that's okay. That's good. You should guess. And the correct answer is simply depreciation. So if that was your guess, congratulations. Pat yourself on the back. You got it right. If not, that's okay. You got another shot this week. As I've said before with the cash flow question, currently we don't have any prizes. We will soon. One day, if you've got something you want to donate, let us know. That'd be great. But this week's question is, name two of the 7 United States, or sorry, 2 of the 7 US states that currently do not have an state income tax. Name 2 of the 7 US states that currently do not have a state income tax. Again, try to get us an answer at CashFlowQuestion at CashFlowDiary.com. You can send that in there with the answer inside, answer in the episode number inside the subject line. So this would be cashflow question at cashflowdiary.com. This would be answer for episode 2. And you want to send that in as well, hopefully before the next episode airs, so that you have the time just to be right, so that and then eventually, as I said, you can pat yourself on the back and celebrate with your friends. One of the things, okay, so let's get back to the main thing today. The main thing that we were talking about is just, the most important tool, most important and underutilized tool in real estate. And so we now are at the most popular one. The most popular one is clearly OPM, other people's money. It's the one that you hear about all the time. It's the one that people says you can't do that. It's not possible. And this is what I'm going to say. We haven't discussed it yet, but we will. Process of manifestation, and it's you've also heard it said simply that or what you think about is you bring about, or you've heard as a man thinketh, so is he. You've heard all kinds of phrases, and you've heard even Henry Ford's version of whether you think you can or can't, you're right. All of those things apply. Other people's money. You're like, well, how do I get some of it? How do I use it? Here's what I'm going to share with you that you might not be thinking of. You already know how. In fact, if you're listening to me, you're listening to this either on a computer, or a cell phone, or an iPhone, or some other piece of electronic device. That electronic device came to you because you likely purchased it from a retail store or Craigslist or used or something, garage sale. I don't know. Here's the point. When you purchased it, you gave someone money. But let me ask you this. The money you used, where did it come from? It came from someone else. That's right. It came from someone else. You have always been using, quote unquote, other people's money. That's something you've been doing all of your life. Here's what is different. You've been using your labor to create value to gain access to other people's money. Right now, we put a label on that and call it a paycheck. And you call it your salary, or you call it your hourly wage, or you call it something like that. Okay. So you use labor to gain access to other people's money. When you're talking about gaining access to other people's money now, what we're really talking about is how do I create an asset that other people will pay me money for? And that asset is generally, especially as it relates to real estate or a business, is an idea. That's generally what it is. It's an idea that's backed up with a little bit of legal, a little bit of accounting. You put some marketing behind it, and boom, there you go. And now people go, okay, yes, I can see that idea. I would like those benefits. I would like that service. I would like access to that asset. I'd like to be equity owner or a debt contributor or something of that nature when it comes to that particular asset. So what you're really saying is, how do I use or create an asset that other people will give me money for? See, understand this. None of us, no person, no human being ever lets go of $1 without believing and thinking that they're going to get at least $1's worth of value for it. This is what I mean. And here's a simple process that comes from The Science of Getting Rich. That's the book, Wallace D. Wattles. Definitely get that book, read it, write it down. It's a free book. Okay, I don't earn any money by you going to get the book. I'm just telling you about it because what it's going to do is it's going to help you understand many, many concepts that we're going to talk about over time, but definitely this one. You always give more in use value than you take in cash value. And I'll use a simple asset to prove that point. I'll say it again. Give more in use value than you take in cash value. For example, have you ever purchased a book? Nonfiction or fiction, novel, doesn't matter to me what type of book, but have you ever bought one? Did you read that book? Was that book free? By definition, if you bought one, it wasn't free. So even if it cost you 99 cents and you downloaded it to your Amazon Kindle, it doesn't matter. The point is the book still cost you something and it was 99 cents. Okay. When you got that book, you read some ideas. Inside of those ideas, once acted upon, those ideas you actually took into your life and did something with, did they provide any value? Some of you are saying no, and some of you are saying yes. For those of you that are saying no, here's what happened. The author took more from you in cash value than they gave in use value. For those of you saying yes, this book was awesome and it was worth so much more than the money I paid for it. You probably don't even care how much you paid for it. And now knowing what you know, you would pay more for it. that's when you were able to actually receive more in use value than was actually taken from you in cash value, which is the goal of your business, is to sit down and figure out how can you use real estate to create enough value in the marketplace so that you can take from the market enough cash value, but give the market more use value. That, when you figure that piece out, that's the secret, or part of the secret. That's half the secret to using other people's money, as most people understand it. Okay. And then the last, in my opinion, most underutilized tool in real estate is OPE. That's OPE, other people's everything. if and it This is just the mindset. It's, if you can do it bigger, better, faster, cheaper than me, then please, by all means, do it. And one of the things that I'd like to caution, new investors and people on, this is what we've got to be wary of. We've got to be afraid of, or depending on how large you want your business, if you want a larger business, you've got to make sure that you obey some of the principles that Michael Gerber talks about, and make sure that you don't become the technician. You don't start doing the work. You only focus on the vision and the mission more than you do the implementation. You want to be the creator of the idea, more than the applicator of the idea. So here's where I'm going with this: is if you can get other people to do it, again, not taking from them more than you're giving, but if you can get other people to do it, let them, because your time is technically better spent in the enterprise doing other things. So other people's everything. And this could be something as simple as shredding paper. This is how this idea came to me, very, very embarrassingly. One day I was actually on a working vacation, if you will, out in Arizona. And my CFO at the time was there. And I was just doing what I do, putting a mail campaign together, a direct mail piece. I was putting a direct mail piece together. I was stamping and licking and stuffing envelopes. And she comes in and looks and sees me going, huh, why are you doing that? And in my head, the answer was, I'm trying to save money. I don't want to spend the money to have someone else go out there and stuff the envelope and do some of that basic task, do some of those basic lower level tasks. And I just didn't want to do that. And then she proceeds to tell me that, my time was worth so much more per hour, and I was actually losing money by doing such a task myself. And when I stopped and started thinking about that, I was like, oh, okay, I hadn't thought about it this way. Because what ends up happening when we don't use other people's everything, what we end up doing is, a net effect is lowering our hourly wage. More importantly, we pay an opportunity cost. While it's not physical dollars that comes out of our pocket, it's emotional energy, it's time that we invest in doing something that does not have the proper return for the either our expectations or what our company needs to go out there and succeed. We've got to be careful of that one. And that one's, I mean, it's not easy. You always have to watch yourself. And I'm not saying just spend money frivolously, but I am saying you just got to watch it. OPE, other people's everything. Final comment for today. And this is the whole point, is that wealth is a team sport. Always has been, always will. There is no I in team. You've heard all these types of cliches, right? It takes all of us, for to work together. It's like it takes a village to raise a child. You've heard that one too. See, what you're looking to accomplish in real estate will take more than just you. Even if all you're trying to do is buy your own, single family house, it's going to take more than just you, because it takes at least an escrow person, right? Or it takes at least a legal person. So it's always going to take more than just you. And when you start opening up your mind to these concepts of leverage, sharing of revenue, profit, achievement, credit, and accomplishments is part of what's required in order to gain the leverage you need so that you can begin to create the value in the marketplace that you're looking to create. And more importantly, for most people, what they're concerned about is, well, how do I get paid and how do I make that happen? Anyway, It's been an excellent episode. Thank you for your time today. I look forward to talking to you soon.
Thank you for investing your time with Jay Massey and the CashFlow Diary. When you have a moment, please visit iTunes and leave a positive comment about the show. And go now to our website, CashFlowDiary.com, to take advantage of our free business building course, Cashflow Foundation. Gain the knowledge, understanding, and skill that will teach you how to never need a job again. Until next time.